Apart from the odd jet ski, nothing much disturbs Palau's sparkling waters and relaxed way of life. Until this. The arrival of a C-17 military plane which lands with no lights in the dead of night. Even the airport lights are switched off. Inside the plane, 6 men are untied while Palau's president waits on the tarmac to greet them. They emerge one by one. Their 8-year Guantanamo nightmare is finally over. The next morning, the president announces his new guests.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, David.
So,
how's everything? The Uighurs finally arrived at the promised land. It concluded a long saga for these people who became homeless as a result of the war against terrorism.
That's why they find it quite difficult.
Hello! On their second day of freedom, the Uighurs invite me into their new home.
It's no good.
Later in the week, it will have air conditioning, a phone line, and an internet connection. It's spacious, has water views, even a piano.
This is mosque for prayer. Maybe tomorrow, today, fix this.
Each has his own bedroom where they can arrange their few possessions. It looks very comfortable, but the men are still tired, disoriented, and confused, and they have to relearn how to be free.
Biz narsalarni biz bir makondan yutkelmay, bir qafasning ichida turib atrofimizdagi bizdan bir 5-10 metr u yoqdagi ishlarni hatto ba'zi vaqtlarda bilmay qolamiz. Haqiqatan Guantanamoda bizning oxirgi shaxsiy o'zimni elib aytsam yoki biz Uyg'urlarni elib aytsak, oxirgi mezgillarda ozroq bir rahatda yashaydigan bir o'ringa yetkelgan bo'lsakmi, uningdan burun ig'ir kunlar ishimizni.
Their main concern right now is preparing the first Uyghur meal they've eaten in years.
Food difficult. It's take time. Really take time. It's huge food easy. Like chips, like chew, sandwich. Very food. Very
so
difficult.
Maybe there in Guantanamo, food Americans, no food Turkistans, no good. And no problem.
In Guantanamo, you're also cooking yourself?
No, can't cook. Can't cook. 8 years first time cook.
First time cooking?
Yes.
Radio Free Asia calls from Washington and asks for an interview.
Baba aşık etme. Salamlaşıp koysam buldu. Hayır. Alhamdulillah kaçtığını günü gün sehar düşken bir yer. Akşam gün seherda.
Cuma günü hayatı mangan.
Cuma günü uyaktım uçtuk. 20 saat sallarlık alet geldi bir yere. Kolumuz bakalım Amerika armiyası şu yere ekip şu kolu hükümete hepsi geldikken arada özümüzde erkiniz kıldık. Yani erkinlik çıkanda kılıp kaldık.
Yaşmayman. Kelgusimizga qarmoqchimizdan keldi. Biroq biz yanıla bizga muvofiqroq bir ayga chiqib shu yerda yashashni umid qilamiz.
In the Guantanamo Bay.
Australia, Mamdouh has been contracted by the US to act as interpreter for the men. He'll spend the next 6 months here. In the short time he's been with them, he's already seen the legacy of the Guantanamo years.
On the one hand, they need more communication. On the other hand, they want to record it from this public space into themselves, to take refuge in themselves, to being cut off from the outside world. And I think this kind of behavioral this kind of behavioral response to the outside world was created in Guantanamo Bay.
Ever since their capture in Pakistan and Afghanistan, the men have been labelled terrorists, despite never being charged or even implicated in any terrorist acts. Ahmad Tursun and the other men's so-called crime is to want independence from China for their Uyghur homeland.
Shunga o'xshash naqchiliklar bizningki ba'zilarimizning vatandan sirtqa yenib chiqishimizga sabab bo'ldi. Boshqa bir yerlarga, texam o'zimga qulaylik bo'lgan boshqa bir yerga o'rilish uchun borgan, o'rnidan oilamga bir yaxshi muhit izlab, yana bir yerga shu muhit izlab yana bir yerga o'tib ketib olgan vaqtimda shu yerdagi kishilar tarafidan tutilib, oxirgi hisobda Amerikaga topshirib berildim.
Those civilians were bounty hunters, responding to American posters like these, promising big money for captured Taliban. Ahmad Tursun found out later that he was sold for $5,000.
Onunki bilan oilamningki qanday bo'lganligini bilmayman.
I am not dangerous people.
Not dangerous?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm simple people, one. No more English. Finish. Thank you very much.
The US has 3 times asked Australia to take some of the Uyghurs held at Guantanamo, but the plea has come to nothing. China wants them returned to face charges of separatism, where they'd be imprisoned or worse. And in this part of the world, China's shadow looms large, something Adel is acutely aware of.
Bizim yak akeldi Palauga. Palau akishdan burunmi bizmi bu Aral Palau arali Xitoyga yaqin bo'lganlik sababi boshqa sabablardan bu yerga berishga to'liq rozi emasligimizni bildirib bir mazgil kechikib ketdik. Lekin oxir mashayga kelishga biz majbur bo'ldik. Chunki dunyodagi yo'g'on davlatlar, dunyodagi noma'lum deb o'tamsaqlar Avstraliya cho'ng davlatning birisi ham kuchli davlat, Xitoyga hech qanday hojat tushmaydigan davlatlarmi bizni qabul qilmaslikqa Xitoydan qo'rqimiz yoki Xitoy bilan bo'lgan munosabat ta'sir etsin qo'rqimiz deb bir sabab ko'rsatib bizni qabul qilmaydimdi. Hozirgacha ham bu Palau keldik. Palau o'zi kichik bo'lsa-mu, 20 ming, 22 ming, 21 ming odam bor bir kichkina Aral davlat bo'lsa-mu, ular Xitoydan qo'rqimiz demasdan bizni vaqtli yashash fursatiga muyassar qilib biz bularga intayin minnatdorlik bildiramiz.
Bular bilan bo'lgan Amerika va Palau hukumati va bizning o'tirimizga to'xtamladimi? Bizni sizlar vaqt qilmishadi, turib turibsizlar. Sizlarga bir yana bir yaxshiroq bir o'rin topganda sizlarni shu yerga yetkazamiz deb ham bu yerga keldi. Endi bizni bir necha kun bo'ldi bizni bu yerda kelganimizga. Ham bu yerdagi ishlarimizdan bundan keyin biz o'ylaymizki bizga Xitoyning tahdididan qalqon bo'larlik va bizni tinch holatda oxirgi hayotimizni tinch holatda yashab o'tkazaylikdek bir yer bo'lishini umid qilamiz.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, the truth is they were caught between 2 superpowers, and that's a place that I would wish on no one. That's the truth. They were caught between the United States and China, and that's not a place you want to be.
George Clark is the lawyer for 2 of the men. I ask him about their connection to the Uyghur struggle for independence.
I'll say as a general matter, all have concerns about their Uyghur homeland, but as a more general matter, you can't generalize, some more than others. Some, I think, particularly at this stage in their lives, are not overly, I mean, obviously they're concerned about the oppression of their brothers, but they're not something that I think they want to spend a lot of time on. Others, I think they might still be quite interested in the movement.
The Uyghurs' apartment is on the first floor of this building, owned by the president's brother, Joe. He also owns the liquor store next door and Joe's bar over the road. Perhaps not the best neighbours for devout Muslims, but another neighbour turns out to be very useful, a physiotherapist right in front of their home.
we feel with our feet.
Ahmad Tursun arrived at Guantanamo Bay with 2 legs, but one was amputated shortly afterwards.
Sense which way with your foot.
Bununki nima sababdan shunday bo'lganligingiz deydi.
Bununki asli bu yerga birma tekdi. 2 yilga. Shuni bilan Keniya kesilgan bunda ajrab. Shu ichiga zaxm qilingan. Suvda necha kun turib ketib bizni o'sha nima desak bu hamda
His lawyer says the initial injury and immersion in water occurred in a notorious fort in Afghanistan. In Guantanamo, it got worse.
At that time it was an infection, a very serious infection.
He still suffers pain in his stump, as well as phantom pain where the foot once was.
I feel dizzy.
Dizzy? Okay, lay down. It's not nice to annoy old wounds. Make yourself easy.
Were these men tortured when they first arrived at Guantanamo?
I think torture is probably not an accurate statement. Were they, mistreated in the sense that prisoners of war sometimes are? Yeah, I think that's fair. But torture, I wouldn't say that.
Palau certainly seems like the ideal place to rest and recuperate. Social worker Ted Glenn has been appointed by the president to make sure that happens.
If I were to name this house, I would call it Self-Reliance House. We're teaching self-reliance here so that we can get them into the community in the most efficient way possible. Thank you very much for meeting.
He calls a meeting to discuss the arrangements.
We will organize this community into a community. We will have a community manager or a mayor, somebody to keep the books, somebody may be assigned to cooking, some outside.
Ted Glenn appears to be a stickler for process, and lawyer Michael Stonehill, who represents 3 of the men, thinks there are too many rules.
Look, they're grown men. They're living in this house. It's their house. They think they can decide how they want to organize themselves.
That's what I'm telling about.
Yeah. So there doesn't.
You do it.
Okay. There doesn't have to be. There's no rules about who cooks or who cleans or who does this.
There isn't.
People just.
No.
They do. You live. I mean, this is your life. You decide how you want to.
The men are concerned that they've not yet been able to make telephone calls to friends and family.
Right now, I cannot authorize that.
Everyone who wants to make a phone call can make a phone call. That's not a problem.
I cannot approve that. Okay, right now.
Look.
He's going to handle it. I can't say anything but no. Okay.
There's no law preventing them from making a phone call. They have the rights of any other person in this country who's visiting. No one in this country is prevented from making a phone call. We're in the same situation that everybody else.
About that. I don't want to argue with you.
It's not a legal argument.
It's becoming clear to interpreter Mamdouh that this fear of phone calls has something to do with China.
Is there any Chinese pressure?
What?
Is there any Chinese pressures upon the Palauian government about?
Yes, there is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. They're mad. They're not happy with it.
They make threats. We just want to kind of get through that period and make sure everything's okay and everyone knows that it will be okay, but it's just for a couple of days. Ahmed, you're exactly right. You can walk wherever you want, you can go wherever you want, you can spend your money doing whatever you want to do. It's your money, you're free to do with it whatever you want to do. And you can go anywhere in the country that you want to go.
All right.
Thank you. Good.
While things are slowly getting worked out at home, their first outing shows how tricky their integration will be. Lunch at an American-style diner.
We have fried, Coke, Pepsi, beer.
Can you read in English? Can you read English?
I'll take it.
No more. No more. I read. No more.
The president of Palau has arranged a crash course in English for the men, But that's just the beginning of their adjustment.
How you think a group of Chinese Muslims or Turkic Muslims are going to adapt to life on a Christian tropical island?
That's a concern for me. So I will try to make sure that their landing will be soft and smooth.
When the devout Muslims realize how much pork is on the menu, they decide instead just to drink iced tea. And they're amused to see photos of their arrival in one of the newspapers.
Guantanamo detainees resettle in Palau.
It's only when they read the article later that they realize it isn't so funny. This is the first florid paragraph.
As if lifted from a spy movie thriller, a plane arrived in wee hours at an airport in darkness, without the knowledge of the sleeping country, and emerged 6 bearded Muslim terrorists in shackles, and guarded by many fully armed commandos.
The men are understandably upset that they are once again being painted as terrorists, and on the first day in their new island home. Their interpreter, Mamdouh, is livid and wants to sue the author.
It's intolerable. It's intolerable.
So I think that, you know, the highest authority has to maybe write a letter. It would be good if the president or one of his senior advisors wrote a letter to the paper saying, this is irresponsible reporting.
And
but this
please let them know, and they have my support. If they need somebody to sign the letter to, I'll sign it.
The article has undone all the president's efforts to make them feel secure and comfortable.
So the United States military cleared these men in 2003. The Department of Justice cleared them after that. The courts have looked at their cases. Everybody agrees that they're not only not a danger, but as far as the terrorism aspect, these men have never had any committed any terrorist acts. They have never engaged in any sort of terrorist training. These men are not suicide bombers. They have not done that sort of activity.
That was reported in various sources that they had attended training.
Well, I think you have to be careful with what's reported. What's reported is that they had military training, okay? As I've said before, Boy Scouts shooting cans at the county dump have had more military training than these guys had.
Not only has America cleared the Uighurs of any wrongdoing, President Obama, struggling to keep to his timetable for closing down Guantanamo, has personally thanked his Palauan counterpart.
When I approached him, he extended his hand to me and says, I want to thank you for the Uighurs.
Beautiful Palau relies on Washington for hundreds of millions of aid dollars, part of what's called the Compact of Free Association, the details of which are currently under review. Part of that is the security meeting, where the US pledges to defend the tiny nation.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
How are you? How's it going? Good?
Well, we just finished the JCM meeting. It was very productive.
Rear
both for me,
Admiral Doug
being my
Beasley
first JCM,
is from the
as well as
rapidly
administration.
expanding US Pacific Command in neighboring Guam.
It's always good to have friends back in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's something I've learned over the years. It's good to have somebody
Palau's
there
Minister of
who
State,
knows
Sandra Pirantosi, knows very well the stick that Palau can wield in world affairs.
So the Americans are not going to abandon Palau?
I think it's to their best interest and our best interest, mutual interest, that they don't abandon Palau, unless they want us to go to China or some other. Just kidding about that, but we both
Maybe,
have a very
but there's
strong
no doubt that
relationship.
all of
We
this is
discuss
being
several
followed very
Pacific
closely in
relations,
Beijing. She
their
says
further
there have
contributions
already been
to
threats issued at
construction
Palau's
of,
New York mission.
Yes, China has made threats, but I think China is a big country and will not try to do something injurious to a small republic of Palau. I don't think they would like to do something like the situation of a David and Goliath. No need to repeat that kind of story. But, you know, anything can happen.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
But locals say already there's a sign of China's displeasure, with work stopping on this Chinese government-funded hotel. At the US Embassy, I meet the Rear Admiral again, this time with Mark Besner, America's top diplomat here.
There are a number of issues that that China feels obligated to bring up on a regular basis. This issue of the Uyghurs is going to be one of them.
Does the rise of the might of the Chinese military and navy keep you awake at night?
The issues associated with China are for, again, a larger context, because it's not just military. There's, as you know, there's relationships on all fronts. So there's diplomatic relationships, military relationships, economic relationships, as well as information.
Request a farewell toast to our good friend Mark.
Mark Besner's term here is over, and he's heading back to Washington.
And I hope to never see any of you guys.
He's returning to the State Department's Office of Australia, New Zealand and Pacific Island Affairs.
Is one of the things you'll be working on convincing the Australians to quietly take the Uyghurs once they've done with their time here?
And I'm the man for the job. Yes,
so
indeed.
It is a possibility? Is it that they'll end up in Melbourne?
It could well be. Could well be.
Bizdeki hamda mishaga kelishimizdagi sabab mo Avstraliyada Uyg'ur bir to'kim cho'ng bir Uyg'ur jamoati yashayotdi. Yani mishada turib Avstraliyaga yana qaytadan bir talab sunib biz shu yerda bir o'ltiraqlashib qilishni so'rasak hamda bir mümkünçiligi bo'lib qolarmi degan maqsadda bu yerga bizningki hamda mush Avstraliyani yeniga bo'lgan Palauga kelishimizdagi sabablarning birisi shu hamda.
What do you think of Australia's rejection of these people?
It's strange. It's a big country. And I assumed they were pressured by China to take a position that they did. But in my opinion, the problem or the dispute over these people between the United States and China is just between them.
The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Canberra declined to respond to the President's comment, but did say it would consider the latest request for resettlement on a case-by-case basis.
Bye-bye.
Well, I think it's extremely disappointing because there's a large Uyghur community in Australia. There's obviously no Uyghur community here in Palau. Australia would be a natural choice for the man to go to. The person that we have interpreting for us now is from Australia. So I think the Australia connection just makes perfect sense. I hope it's not to appease the Chinese that decision was made. I hope that there was at least some decision that this was inappropriate for some other reason. But I don't know what other reason it possibly could be, except for Chinese appeasement, which is very unfortunate.
On day 3, the President organises a picnic on a private island. For most of the men, it's the first time they've been in a boat or seen the sea. And it's the first time I see them smile so freely. The men continue their quest for Uyghur comfort food.
With our honor.
When the meat is cooked, they offer the President the first plate.
So your first Uyghur meal, huh?
It's a serious thing. It's not a symbolic thing. It's from their heart. So I have to eat this.
Biz umid qilamizki hamda ma'lum Avstraliya hukumati Avstraliya prezidentininki burunqi bizni olmaslik asini bir o'zgartib bizni bir shu yerga o'rinlashtirishni, bizni Avstraliyaga qabul qilishni umid qilamiz.